Commission meeting for September 12th, 2022. Our regular meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. First item up is the approval of the minutes from the August 8th, 2022 regular meeting. Commissioners, any corrections? If none, we'll consider those to be approved. All right. And next up is a public hearing. And we have two public hearings tonight, actually. The first one is Hampton Companies. This will be the comprehensive plan amendment for the rezoning site plan, preliminary plat, final plat, 2022-50-32 unit, or for a 32-unit senior assisted living facility, southeast corner of 33rd and Vermillion Street. And John Hinsman has a report. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. So we got a couple of items that we're considering for this site today. The proposal is to build a 32-unit single-story care facility that would treat memory care and also assisted living individuals. The location is here at the southeast corner of 33rd Street and Highway 61 Vermillion Street. So we've got 4 separate actions for you to consider tonight. First of all would be a comprehensive plan amendment, which would change the future land use of this from commercial to medium density residential. Second would be a rezoning of the property from C4 Regional Shopping Center to R4 High Density Residence, so commercial to residence again. Then a preliminary and final plat, which would replat the outlot into a lot of record. Essentially, the boundaries of the property are unchanged. It's the legal definition of the property itself. And then a site plan, which goes through the construction of the building, parking, and various facilities on it. So that's some background information within your report here. Existing conditions, as you can see, it's a pretty flat and treeless piece of property. To the north of it, you've got commercial with Pro Power Rental. To the east of it, Terry's Hardware. To the south of it, primarily you got Dugaro's down here. There's a strip of land in between here, which is an access way to the Enclave Apartment Project, which is a 211-unit apartment project that was recently approved in this area here. West Highway 61, across the street, you've got some single-family residential and a commercial property down here. So that's kind of the lay of the land here. A little bit of history on the property. It was part of a larger master plan development in 1989 for a large commercial development that included this whole area between Vermillion Street and Highway 61, included what's now Colburn's and the various commercial elements that you see on the south side as well as on the north side of the roadway here. Within the report yourself, I also put some information related to our Vermillion Street corridor study. This was a study that was done in 2018 to contemplate different development scenarios throughout the corridor itself. Within the report, I did put a picture of the image that we had for this area pertaining to the Vermillion Street plan, which contemplated residential development on the corner here, which was essentially residential here with commercial fronting Highway 61 Vermillion Street. So the first thing we have before us tonight, one more thing too, we also put a notification out to adjoining property owners as well. We did receive one comment back from Terry's Hardware, an email which I submitted earlier, and then also a letter that was received late this afternoon, which is printed out and at the Diaz before you. So as far as the actions we have before you tonight, comprehensive plan amendment. The comprehensive plan is our guiding document looking at what we would like to see in land use over the next 20 years. And when we take a look at the property here, all the red here is commercial, and they're proposing to change this area from commercial to what is termed medium residential. Medium residential comprehensive plan designation would allow for the type of use which is being proposed, which contemplates dwelling of 8 to 20 units an acre. This proposal here is around 11, I believe, units per acre. So it would be consistent with that designation and also consistent with the area diagonal to it, which is the medium residential designation that we had on there for the apartment complex. So when we take a look at these type of reviews, taking a look at the comprehensive plan amendment, taking a look at the lay of the land. The site itself is undeveloped. It abuts commercial land and a state highway, so there is commercial surrounding most of the site. Land to the southeast of the development has been designated for apartment units, so the type of density there is similar. It's a residential type of land use to the south and east. The Vermillion Street corridor plan, which is not part of the comprehensive plan officially, but does chart our our desire for what we want to see in the corridor and along properties in the future does call this out for residential development. So we are recommending approval of that change subject to the conditions within your report. Next, we look at the rezoning of the property. Rezoning is the legal land use of the property today. Land use of the property today is C4, commercial, which is located here. This is consistent with Terry's Hardware, Duguero's, and a number of the other areas here within the neighborhood. The areas just to the kind of south and east of it is part of that enclave development, the apartment units. So what is being proposed here is to rezone the property from commercial to a similar designation as the enclave apartment buildings. So usually with the rezoning, we take a look at the comprehensive plan. In this situation, we're also amending the comprehensive plan. So the similar types of designations and review that we use. Looking at the area and what has developed, we are recommending approval of the rezoning of this property as well. Taking a look at the next aspect we have is the plat. Now, plats are generally something a little more complex. This one is relatively simple. The legal definition of the property right now is what's termed an outlot. You can't outright develop an outlot. You have to plat it as what's termed a lot of record. So this is the preliminary plat. This is the final plat. Preliminary plats generally lay out the design of a subdivision, lot layout, street layout, et cetera. Final plats put them into action. In this case, it's a simple plat. Both the preliminary plat and the final plat are identical on this one. With the final plat comes certain conditions. One of them is review of right-of-way needs, utility needs, et cetera. So we did put this proposal to MnDOT to get comment. We have not received any comment from MnDOT at this time. With the Highway 61 project for reconstruction planning of that, their staff is aware that this is going on here. Have not had any indications of any other right-of-way need that would be expected from MnDOT, but we still have that condition within the report itself. Also within a plat of a property, there is the requirement of parkland dedication. So we did have the Park and Recreation Commission review the method of parkland dedication on August 30th. Their options included a physical dedication of property or a payment of cash in lieu of land. In this circumstance, they did opt for the payment of cash in lieu of land, so that recommendation will be moving forward to the City Council on it. As far as the plat review goes, there really isn't much to review on this one. Most of this review is going to come during the site plan of it, so we are recommending approval of the plat. On to what the development of the property will be. This is a layout of what we're looking at today. So the 32-unit building would be located here on the property, entrance on 33rd Street, which would line up with Pro Power across the street, be a singular entrance in and out. Traffic would come in, 25 parking spaces around here, drop-off area in the front here, and then the building surrounding it. So from a vehicular access circulation, we're okay with that. These colored diagrams here represent fire truck and emergency services equipment turning radius, which is one of the things that we wanted to ensure with our early review of it, and that appears to be adequate for the facilities needed for our emergency services. Take a look at the building setbacks itself. It does meet the requirements that we have minimally wise within the zoning district, so that is good. From a pedestrian access standpoint, this is a little bit of an unusual facility, considering that most of the residents that live here are going to be really internally within the building itself. Don't believe there's going to be a lot of coming and goings. With memory care, very little. With a dependent care, possibly a little more, but not a lot. But taking a look at pedestrian access, you've got a nice sidewalk system going around the building here, which residents can use for access and strolling, getting a little exercise. You also have a sidewalk along 33rd Street here, so we are recommending a connection point between the sidewalk of 33rd Street and the internal sidewalk network. As we look at Highway 61 in the future, there is a plan there to have sidewalks and trails, so we'll have that obligation come with the Highway 61 project a little later on. Take a look at parking for the site itself. There is 25 parking spaces required. Our zoning code would require 11. I did have a discussion with the developer as to, is 25 too much? He's built similar facilities and stated that he believes the 25 is necessary and is what has been customary in other facilities that he has developed. So we're okay with that moving forward. Taking a look at landscape plan here, that does meet our requirements as well. Also, there's a couple of things we look at. One's a minimum quantity of plantings from trees and shrubs. It meets that. Also taking a look at creating more denser areas between parking areas and streets, primarily looking at the parking lot in 33rd Street, and we're comfortable with the plantings that are put there. So landscape plan is recommended for approval on this. Looking at the architectural elevations here, we've got requirements that require what we term Class 1 materials, which are brick, natural stone, glass, and metal panels, and a combination of Class 2 materials, which can be EIFS, stucco, concrete panels, and tiles. So looking for 50% to be comprised of both those items. And taking a look at the elevations itself, you've got combinations between stone and hardy siding on this one. And then you've got a variated roof line, variated dormers within this to break up the massing of the building. The architectural elevations are adequate. There is one small exception on one of the elevations that needs to be popped up a couple more %, but other than that, it would be fine in meeting our architectural standards on this. I went through the landscape plan. Lighting plan is fine. They have a plan for trash enclosures as well. Grading, drainage, and erosion control plan is being actively reviewed by our Public Works Department right now. They'll be obligated to meet any requirements of that as well. So we are recommending approval of the site plan with this, subject to the conditions within your report. So that's a summary of the actions we have before you tonight. Looking for recommendations on those 4 asks tonight: the comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, preliminary final plat, and site plan itself. We do have Jeremy Larson here representing Sweet Living, if you have any questions for him, as well as the owners of the property at present. And I can stand for any questions. This is a public hearing, so you can open it up at this time, or I can answer questions prior to it.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. If there's anybody from the public who wishes to speak, you can step up to the podium there where John was just there. State your name and address. Anyone wish to speak? Come on up.
How are we doing? I'm Pete Terry, live in Ninninger and own and operate the Terry's Hardware Store. Do you want my home address or business?
Business.
Business is fine.
Okay, 375 33rd Street West. All right. I know you've got a letter that got forwarded from us, and I assume all of you got it. I just wanted to maybe highlight a couple parts of it, just as to emphasize what our thoughts and feelings on this subject are. We came to speak in opposition of this comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning associated with this development. We believe that it's inconsistent with sound land use and development principles and detrimental to our business and our property. The subject property possesses characteristics best suited for commercial use, access, visibility, major artery roads, and everything else, as opposed to the use that's proposed. The city of Hastings is projected to experience continued growth through 2024, and it's reasonable to assume that this growth will continue well beyond that. The majority of the growth is planned to occur on the south end of Hastings, in relative proximity to this site. In the comprehensive plan, there's very limited opportunities for commercial development for the goods and services in reasonable proximity to that growth. The proposed use on this subject property does not require the access, visibility, traffic count that are that characteristics of that site and are more suitable to a commercial use. In fact, it eliminates one of the more prime commercial vacant properties in the community while putting a residential face on a key commercial area in the community. While the comprehensive plan has the ability to be amended over time, the current plan was adopted just 19 months ago, and with really no new information or anything that we can see would be a reason to make a major change to the comp plan. We do not believe the comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning is in the best interest of the city of Hastings or its residents. We also have concerns specific to our property and business because we're there. First, the proposed use continues to promote the essential changeover of that area, the character of the area from commercial to residential, especially in that prominent location in that area. Second, that guidance undermines the massing of commercial properties necessary to make any commercial grouping successful. Critical mass is very important to commercial businesses. Third, we have concerns about the increasing potential land use incompatibility. Our commercial use being squeezed between two residential uses. Putting those residential uses in an area that's more commercial with, noise, traffic, hours of operation, the lighting that we have on our place now for security, inviting customers in, that it's possible that with this squeeze of residential that the city could place future undue limitations on the use of our property or future guidance on our property, and that is a concern that we have. Lastly, we have concerns regarding, inverse spot zoning of the city, basically leaving us as an individual lot in between residential area. Let's see. All of this has the potential to negatively impact our operations and our property value. In short, we believe the comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning to be a bad idea on this site and contrary to the long-term interest of the community and our business. Any questions on our thoughts?
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Nope, not at the moment. Oh, you do?
Yes. So, understanding the layout of your operation, are there any things that would potentially have to change because of residential use there, such as, storage outside facility? Maybe, I know you have an LP system there. Would that have to be moved and changed because of residential now?
I don't know.
Commissioner, I don't believe there would be any changes necessary from the LP tank system on that. And, looking at his commercial property, provided, he's operating within the bounds of his property, I don't see anything from the approval of this that would have to change the operation that he presently does.
Okay.
Yeah, our concern is just future, more of that, and then just changing the whole area from commercial to residential and being left as the lone commercial operator in that general vicinity. That's our long-term concern,
Right.
and why we oppose, rezoning.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ed McMenamy, 4122 143rd Street West, Rosemount, Minnesota. I'm one of the owners of the property. We've been owners for over 22 years on that property, and we have not gotten one inquiry in 22 years for anything on that property in 22 years, just like we had with the apartment complex now that was approved. It's never been inquired about any kind of commercial. We've had it listed for 20 years. And this really is somewhat of a commercial property, even though it's residential. It is a commercial property, in my opinion. I just want to know we've done everything we can. And there's not enough traffic to the south on 61. That's the problem. That's, never been a SAA or a Quick Trip or anything there. He's got storage and things out in his place, and he's never once inquired about maybe buying our property and expanding his outside storage over there. We just haven't gotten anything going. It's over 20 years, plus it's 10 years old before we bought it, and we bought it in bankruptcy. I think it all went to heck when Sam's, or is it Sam's, not Sam's, but Sam's sister,
Oh, Sam Hertog's, yeah.
yeah, when they left there, and you know what we've done over there with the property and turned commercial property into storage, it's just been a tough one to work with, and we've tried for 30 years. And we think this is a good area. There is residential across the street, and these type of outfits, I'm told, the patients that are in there like a lot going on that keeps them going. So seeing all this action that might be happening on there is kind of a plus for them too. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Nope. Nope. No
Thank you.
questions. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in person? Anyone on Zoom? No one on Zoom? All right. If there's no one else that wishes to speak, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And commissioners will open it up to any open discussion and questions. John takes up residency at the podium one more time here.
All right.
All right. Commissioners, any questions, comments, discussion? Commissioner Matzke.
So I guess when you look at a comprehensive plan, which is what we're looking to change right now, our what goes into the planning of this? What goes into deciding what areas are what? And at the time, we had determined it was going to be commercial and left there. So why was it not determined at the time we were going to move it to a residential?
Sure. Commissioner, when we went through the comprehensive plan, we started that probably about 2017, 2018. Coincidentally, we did the comprehensive plan at the same time as we did the Vermillion Street Corridor Plan, which was completed in 18. So the reason why it was commercial is it's always been commercial ever since the original Walmart proposal and construction took place in the late 1980s when we annexed it from Marchand Township at that time. It's been a commercial area. As Mr. McManamy pointed out, it's been marketed for commercial for quite some time. I can agree with Mr. McManamy that I'm not aware of any proposals coming forward in my 20-plus years here for that property. So it's been difficult going in that one. When we did the Vermillion Street Corridor Plan, we did take a look at that whole area down there in the recognition that we believe there was too much commercial zone land. That was evident with the rezoning that we did for the Enclave apartments, where we took a lot of that 13 acres of more interior space and rezone that to residential development. When you get into situations like this, where you're on a corner lot on Highway 61 and 33rd Street, there's various arguments you can make for that one. Certainly, on paper, it looks like it has good commercial viability. From a traffic standpoint, as we all know, when you get to Highway 61 and 316, 2/3 of the traffic goes on 316. The amount of traffic on 61 at that point is less than 10,000 vehicles a day, which is not terribly supportive towards commercial development, especially anything that relies on an impulse buy on that one. When you take a look at the type of use that is being proposed at this one here, to my mind, it's certainly residential from what it is within the zoning code. From a practical standpoint, it's almost more institutional. I mean, if we were looking at a standpoint in which we were proposing to put purely residential, say a townhome or an apartment building at that location, some of the concerns that might come up with incompatible uses with people moving into the residential area and going, wait a second, I'm having issues with this existing commercial operation, which has been here forever. With this type of operation being more institutional in nature, the residents being more interior and not having a lot of comings and goings and throughout the community, I think that's lessened within this one. So throughout that large rambling, Commissioner, I hope I somewhat answered your question.
Does the city not believe we're going to expand? I'm sorry. Does the city not believe we're going to expand on 61 South? You reference 10,000 vehicles now, but you don't look at any of the future traffic or any expansion south. Do you not believe there's going to be more traffic going south on 61 and more building south of there on 61 that we're just willing to write off this property is residential?
Yeah. Commissioner, absolutely, there'll be an increase in traffic on there. It will not match, in my opinion, the traffic level that's on 316. That's gonna be the major leg at that split there. But, you know, you've got land further to the south there. Within our comprehensive plan, we have designation for more residential property, future annexations. Now, from a practical standpoint, I'm not aware of any one of those properties that's seeking annexation and not sure what the time frame of it is, but you have that there. You've got some other properties that are designated on Highway 61 on the east side of it, just to the south of here, that could develop commercially in the future as well, and that's consistent with what we have in the Vermillion Street plan. So, you know, I can see arguments, frankly, for both sides of this one. I mean, this appears on paper to be a commercial site. However, the commercial viability of this site over its 22-year-plus history has not yielded much much of impact in there. You got a proposal coming forward that, albeit fits within our residential zoning district, but in my mind is more institutional. It's not purely residential. It's kind of this quasi between a commercial and a residential site.
Anything further? Go right ahead. Make sure.
I guess in my opinion, it would make more sense if it would stay commercial. It seems like this site would be, the use of this property would be better suited in other areas within the city. And I just don't, I feel like when we automatically just flip our comprehensive plan and what we have in our plan just because, oh, well, somebody came in and they said we want to buy it and we got a good plan for it. It just doesn't seem like it's a great idea to me just to flip it over when it does seem like it would be more ideal as a commercial site. So that's just all I have to say at this, I guess my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Peters.
I think the challenge for me in this one is that the guiding documents that we have as Planning Commission are in conflict, it seems, because the comprehensive plan is saying commercial, but the Vermillion Corridor study, which they were both developed at the same time, is, you know, showing that it would be residential. So it's hard, in my understanding of our role as Planning Commission, it's hard to really truly know what the intent of the city is for this property. So the question that I have is, regardless of how we vote today, or, you know, make a motion or not, if we make a motion to change it, it definitely goes to the city council. If we do not, does it move forward to them? Because I think that's what, like, it's unclear to me what the intent of the city is, and it's just hard to interpret.
Sure. Commissioner, we've got a specific applications before you today, so the recommendation would be asked for by the Planning Commission up or down on this one, and that would go forward to the city council, who would ultimately make a final decision. They may say, yep, we're supportive of the change as the applicant has proposed, and that change would take place. They could take a contrary position and say, no, we're not going to change it, and then it remains the way it is. When you've got the conflicting documents, and that's difficult in this one, because you know, especially when they're developed at the same period. I don't think there was, the designation of the commercial property within the comprehensive plan was a reflection of the past use of that property and past plans based upon the 1980s plat over there that saw this whole area as commercial. And so within the comprehensive plan, we reflected that because that's what the property was being sold for, and we wanted it, and it felt that that would be a type of use that would work within that area. So that's the reason we did that. When we looked at the Vermillion Street Corridor Plan, there was a recognition that the area of commercial property within County Crossroads, that area, was probably much more than what the market could absorb. And when that was planned for development, I think that was planned to rival the areas of Highway 51 to be one of the major areas of commerce within Hastings, which it certainly isn't. It's an important area from a neighborhood commercial standpoint, but not as any sort of regional standpoint. So The recommendation out of that plan was take a lot of the land right now that is designated for commercial, put it into residential. Those residential units could help support the commercial that's there and potentially grow it even more.
Okay. Mr. Dyken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple comments and a couple questions. So this isn't the first comp plan amendment we've done this year, correct? I can think of the apartment building.
Correct.
downtown.
Yeah, I think since we adopted the comprehensive plan, this might be the third one.
Okay. So to me, it's just this big encompassing plan that fits over the whole city, and then we start to make tweaks to it as we get down there and say, hey, does this make sense? I think I've said this before, but I'm also a fan of not having a ton of businesses when you drive into town. I think when you go into a town and you see more, residential and more buildings and not billboards and flashy signs, it makes a nicer community as you enter. I know we have, tons of businesses when you come into town, but I think this makes it look nice when you drive into a town. I do have a question for the actual, I know this is memory care. I'm assuming that the doors are always locked and there's alarms and stuff, so people couldn't wander out onto the 61? Is that?
Commissioner, that would be my understanding. In a typical memory care scenario has a lockdown situation. Yeah, the developer's agreeing with that.
So there's really no danger to the residents of getting out and getting outside and
I wouldn't believe so, and I'm not
wandering
sure,
on a
Jeremy, if you
major
want to
road.
address that further. Okay.
10,000 chances to get hit by a car.
Yeah, I'll have Jeremy Larson come up here.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commission members. My name is Jeremy Larson on behalf of Hampton Companies and Sweet Living, and I can address your question. Yes, the building is locked down. You can't leave without a staff member. And then even in the building itself, the memory care wing has a separate code to get into that wing compared to the assisted living side. So yeah, the memory care side, they are more of the wandering type, so they're more secure than the assisted side even, but yes, you need a code to get in and out.
Okay. And then I think you said there's 25 parking spots. Is that enough for staff and visitors?
Yep, we really only need 20 to 25 parking stalls. None of our residents drive. It's just staff members and then a few visitors here and there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm in support of it, of changing this and moving forward, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Dyken. Commissioner Halberg, if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I work in assisted living, and residents do get out of memory cares. It happens. Family member accidentally let somebody out because they think that, it's just somebody else that's visiting on the unit. I worked in a facility where we had somebody that walked up and said, hey, I forgot my badge. Can you scan me out? It happens. But at the same time, anyone from the residential area could have a moment where they wander out of their house and get into oncoming traffic. But there's a lot more safeguards on a memory care unit. My question is around the parking as well. In my previous facilities I worked at, I had multitudes of residents that did drive. I ran a 50-unit residence, and 38 of those were AL-IL. And anywhere from 5 to 15 residents did have cars. And in your letter you had sent, you said 3 to 5 staff members. It seems like not a lot of staff members when you consider RAs, how many staff members you're going to have, because you have to have at least one person in the memory care. And then you have the RAs or whoever else for the other part of the assisted living, along with culinary department, housekeeping, maintenance, management. It just seems like 3 to 5 is a really low number. And one of my big concerns was the parking as well.
So this isn't our first facility. We're going to have 14 up and running at the end of this year. It's a known business. We know how to run them. It's probably closer to 4 to 6 during the day, 3 to 4 in the evening hours. But yes, we know exactly how to run these and how to staff them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I pulled up while we were talking here, I pulled up a photo of your West St. Paul facility. It's right on Robert and Butler, it looks like.
Yep.
Which is a very busy intersection. It's even busier than the proposed location here. And I think in the middle of the day, they had 8 cars in the parking lot when this photo was taken. So, you know, just I'm just using this as a comparison as far as kind of what the operation is. It going to look like this?
Yes, this is the building. Our buildings don't change, they're all the same, yep.
I guess as I look at this compared to the other, like you said, you could go either way. If I look at it as, let's say it stays commercial, someone could come in and build a 4-story office building there if they wanted to, as long as it meets, what's it is currently zoned at again?
C4.
C4, which would allow up to,
Would allow any real retail, commercial use.
Yeah, which could be-
Pretty open.
yeah, which could be very open. This here has a limited, at least a limited elevation to it. Not a lot of activity. It's assisted living and memory, is it memory care and assisted living? Or is it assisted living and,
Yeah, it's assisted living and memory care. 20 of the units are assisted living, 12 are memory care, and it's end of life. Back to your question, yes, anything can happen. A resident could somehow get out, a staff member could be careless, or a loved one could be visiting and they could leave a door open. So yeah, anything could happen. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the case. But we do the best we can with security cameras on the outside of the building, and then secure doors to get in or out. And it is end of life. Like I said, none of our residents drive. Even the assisted living side, their next move would be to go to the memory care side. Our average resident lives about 2 to 3 years before they pass, sadly. We do consider ourselves a good buffer between residential and commercial. There are houses across the street, and it is a good transition. We have low impact to the area. We were just approved in Maple Grove for the very same reason. We're butting up to a Hy-V, and there's townhouses across the street, and then it would go us, and then it's Hy-V. And our first rooms taken or spoken for in each facility are looking out towards busier areas, because to what John mentioned, they do like to see the action. They want to see cars. They want to see people going in and out of stores. They don't want to be in the middle of the woods somewhere and then that's it. So.
okay. So yeah, that's kind of where I look at it is, okay, so you could have a 4-story commercial building going in there. Somebody wants to buy that, and then you're still visibility-wise completely invisible to anything on Highway 61. So kind of hard to make that argument. What's your buffer like between the property lines between his property and yours? Is that going to be?
Yeah, let me pull back the site plan here.
I was looking at the photo at the site plan, but I wasn't
Yeah,
quite
looking
sure.
at the site plan here, I think it's about 30 feet or so between
it's
the
30
building
feet.
and
Okay.
the property line to the east. Here's the property line right here, and I think that's about 30 feet if I recall. And then you can see Terry's Hardware over here, and that's for another like 15 feet, I think, from the property line.
I think the legend is somewhat confusing because there is must be a 30-foot, 35-foot offset line that was drawn in there that's marked as the property line.
Talking right here, Commissioner?
Yeah, well, the one that you're on right there that goes all the way around, that's marked as property line in the legend, all the way around. And it shows that that the corner of the building actually sits right on the property line.
Right, that's where my concern was.
That must be some sort of offset then that's there, a buffer offset, or?
Yeah, I think that has to do with, it's a minimum setback requirement, because there was one here that shows about 20 feet off, which was an older mark within the property. So I think it represents the typical setback requirements residentially wise. This is the property line back here.
So exactly you know, what is the setback that the city would require from the property line if it were to go in?
Yeah, from on a residential standpoint with this rezoning, the minimum setback to the east where Terry's Hardware would be is 25 feet. And what they're proposing is a little over 37 feet. Within a commercial zone, there is no prescribed setbacks.
Okay. And MnDOT, what would it be from, where's the MnDOT right away then?
MnDOT right-of-way is here, that would also be, that'd be 35 feet, so that the building itself would need to be 35 feet. That's a specific requirement that we have for residential care facilities. A regular building within the R4 district would only need to be, I think, 25 feet.
Okay. Commissioner Hubbard?
Mr. Chair, I guess, John, to your point that you said, you know, we're kind of bordering more on almost like an institutional, kind of straddling the line between residential and commercial. I do think that this would be a good fit, and to Commissioner Tyken's point, you know, we create these plans, but plans change. And it is confusing when you have two conflicting documents. But I think at the end of the day, this kind of usage is a much better fit than to Chair Messina's, you know, 4-story office building that sits empty and is kind of an eyesore versus, you know, a facility that is, I've looked at other facilities that you guys have built as well. They're nice looking facilities. They add to the area, not detract. So I guess for me, I'd be in favor of the changes that are in front of us this evening, but do understand both sides of the coin.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Hubbard. Commissioners, any other questions, concerns, comments? Commissioner Peters?
Will we be addressing each aspect of this separately?
Commissioner, that's entirely up to you. If you would, the maker of the motion could look at each one of these 4 actions individually, or they could look at bundling these up into one action. I'll leave that up to the commission.
Okay, yeah, the reason why I ask is that I am still having trouble with just the changing, how it fits into the comprehensive plan. However, I do think the site plan is very well done. It meets all the requirements. It's one of the better site plans that I feel like we've seen, where there's very little, you know, feedback that we've had. So I just wanted to make sure that we would treat that separately. I guess that would be my preference.
Okay, and just to confirm, treat which one separately?
Just the first,
The actual amendment?
the actual amendment, yeah. Just, I think that would, because we've had that's where most of our discussion has been. And I feel like that's the part that, you know, when it would go forward to the city council, that I think I would want more of their discussion to be around.
And you said, John, oh, excuse me, sorry about that.
No, that's
And
okay.
John, you said the medium residential would be 8 to 20 units max, right?
Right. And this one's 11.8.
Okay. All right, commissioners, any other further discussion? Commissioner Tyken?
I just want clarification from Commissioner Peters. If we don't recommend approval of the plan amendment, the rest of them really don't follow, is my problem. So we can't say, like, we're not going to recommend this, but we're going to recommend the rest of the package. To me, they come in order. So,
It's almost like it's a stop, what you're saying, it's a stopgap.
right, like if we say no to the first one, we can't really say yes to the rest of them
We can't
because,
say we approve the rest of it all the way through.
Yeah.
no. And I guess, yeah, you're right.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I guess I was thinking about like how I would personally, you know, like how I would vote for them. I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of the change of the comprehensive plan, but if the group would, then I am in favor of the rest of the pieces I would be supportive of those if the comprehensive plan went through. Does that make
Right.
sense?
No, it makes-
That's why I was thinking like to address it separately. Because then if we make the amendment to the comprehensive plan, then to me, okay, that's done, that's our recommendation. So now I'll look at the other pieces to it. So that's just why I was asking that.
Sure.
And that's why I was making an important distinction that it's 8 to 20 units. So if down the road, if it weren't to be developed, it would still be limited to 8 to 20 unit, whatever would go in there.
Correct.
Versus a 211 apartment complex, which we approved on the other side.
You got it.
Side. So that's kind of what I was going for, is that it wouldn't be more than 8 to 20 units regardless of what gets built there. So that's the other consideration to make if you're making a motion. Commissioner Tyken?
I want to make a motion, but I'm not sure if we should do one or four. I'll do one.
You can do,
I'm going to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, site plan, preliminary plat, and final plat 2022-50, based on with the included conditions in our report.
and just to clarify, that is only on the comprehensive plan amendment. Number one, or are you
whole thing.
bundling all four together?
I'm bundling all four.
Okay, so that is a motion to approve all four together. Commissioner Halbert.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Halbert in a second. Any further discussion, any new discussion? Okay, if not, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion does carry.
Nay.
Nay.
I'm sorry, 1 nay,
2.
2 nays.
Okay.
So we have Commissioner Peters, nay, and Commissioner Matzke, nay.
All right, and I will forward the recommendation of the 3-2 vote, and these would be on the 4 items that were before you tonight, bundled as one on here. As far as specific comments to the city council on this, for those that voted in the minority there, is there anything that you'd like to pass along specifically?
Do you want to go for it? Yeah, my no was specifically to bring about discussion on the change to the comprehensive plan. But I do believe that the other 3 pieces were definitely in line with what, we were looking at as a planning commission, that they met all the requirements and things like that. It's just the comprehensive plan piece and rezoning, so.
All right, thank you.
And I guess my comments are that I do believe that there is specific growth that will be happening on 61 South. Watching the city and the way the county has exploded over the last 20 years, I can't believe that the traffic level of what you're describing is going to stay that for the next 20 years. I honestly believe that changing that property over from commercial to a residential is probably not or in the best interest of the city. It is probably in the best interest of the landowner at the current time, but I don't think it's in the best interest of the city as we move forward.
All right, I will pass those comments along with the recommendation tonight. So with the recommendation tonight, since there is a rezoning involved in this, the rezoning first reading will move forward to the city council next week on the 19th, and then the remaining actions, including the second reading, would come back to the city council on the October 2nd or 3rd meeting, whatever that first Monday in October would be. Right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is another public hearing. This is Hastings Commons Interim Use Permit 2022-51 Motor Coach Commerce Facility, 24-hour block of Vermillion Street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just put together, here we go. Now, planning commissioners, to most of you, this may look very familiar. We did take a similar action on this property back in May of 2021 on granting an interim use permit to Hastings Commons LLC on the property shown here. The property we're looking at is this area, which is a little over 1 acre, which is in front of the Corotel Motel, the old Super 8, which is located on Vermillion Street between Hastings Terrace and the car wash here, right before you get to the arena, which is down here. So we did take similar action to this, same action before you tonight, back in 2021. So what's changed? Why are we looking at this again? As part of the interim use permit, there was a use agreement that's required as part of that. Within the use agreement, there was an established date of construction needed to be completed by September 1st of 2022, which did not occur. We did speak to our legal counsel to see if it was possible to grant an extension to that, but there was not an opportunity to grant that extension with the city council schedule prior to it expiring. So we are back looking at a new interim use permit here. This interim use permit that we're looking at today is the same interim use permit that we looked at back in May of 2021. So a little bit of explanation as far as what an interim use permit is. An interim use permit is a permit that is meant to be issued for a limited amount of time. It's not a permanent use. There's specific uses within our zoning code, included within the C2 district in which this is zoned, that identify uses as interim uses. And so similar to a permitted use or a special use, there are some zoning districts which include the C2 district which have established interim uses. Now the established interim uses, you may recall, we went through a plan amendment, a city zoning code amendment prior to this plan coming forward in 2021 to more clearly establish what is and what is not allowed within that district. And so we did make that amendment that prescribed interim uses can be considered within the C2 district, and that you can set specific conditions onto the operation of those interim uses. With an interim use permit, we do require a public hearing notification, so we did mail notification to all property owners within 350 feet of the property. We have not received any comments as of this time. Within the interim use permit review in our city code, there are a number of items in which we look at to determine how the use would fit within the zoning district, including conditions of approval, which we have operational requirements within the former use permit that we issued on it, and those were taken specifically from a lawsuit that the city was involved in with the Hastings Commons Group. Hastings Commons Group and the city settled that lawsuit pertaining to the establishment of the zoning district and the establishment of certain parameters for the operation within the interim use permit. Those operational requirements have not changed. There's a requirement in there that these would all be what are termed type A motorhomes and travel trailers over a length of no more than 20 feet and no more than 15 years old. There's also requirements on there for where those can be placed in the property and the duration of how long they can be on the property itself. The term of the interim use permit is for 10 years. There is the option for them to, after 10 years to renew for another 10 years. That is similar to what we have seen before. The rules of operation on there, which were established as sort of like covenants of the area, are the same as they were in 2021 and contemplates a number of operational concerns that we hope not to happen, that they will be able to take action on. So that is the permit that we have before us tonight. We also had in 2021 a site plan. The site plan is still valid on the site. There's no action necessary on that, but I did put a couple of images in the presentation here just for illustrative purposes. So you've got up here, you've got the Coratel, former Asteria Inn. This is Highway 61 here. This is the property in between. So you've got the 12 sites going in existing entrances here and being located as such. There's with the site plan, there was screening requirements, landscaping requirements, and other things. So there'd be a fence and landscaping constructed on here with the site plan. Again, not an issue of consideration tonight for the Planning Commission, but something that is still valid on the property and will be required prior to any construction on this. So tonight, what we have before you is the interim use permit for operation on the facility. I'm not sure if anyone is here to represent the applicant here. Okay, we do have a representative from the applicant in the audience. If you have any questions for them, this is a public hearing. You may open that up at this time if you wish as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Danielle Hoffman. I work for the applicant Hastings Commons LLC, 6770 Stillwater Boulevard North in Stillwater, Minnesota is our address. As Mr. Hinsman mentioned, an identical application for this project was submitted last year. This project was before the Planning Commission on May 10th and then approved by the City Council on May 17th. As a result, Hastings Commons received approval for the IUP for the project, which consists of the operation of a motor coach commerce facility containing 12 units for luxury recreational vehicles. As a part of that approval, the deadline of September 1st, 2022 was established for the completion of the project and the commencement of the IUP term. At the time that the project was approved, September 1st, 2022 seemed a very obtainable deadline for us. However, between May 17th, 2021 and now, there have been a variety of unexpected delays, including delays in plan approvals as well as complications due to COVID-19 that have made reaching that completion deadline impracticable for Hastings Commons. After approval in May, substantial time was lost to additional review and requests, most notably from Dolly and the city. Of the 15 months we had to construct the project, approximately 8 of those months consisted of delays from addressing Dolly concerns and waiting for responses to our submittals. 3 of those months were spent addressing city concerns as well, which all were taken care of. It wasn't until May of this year that Dolly approved the project and allowed for us to submit a permit application to the city. So that leaves only 4 months unaccounted for, and in those 4 months, Hastings Commons faced multiple delays due to construction contractors having limited availability due to COVID, and the owner and core developer of the project, Mark Lambert, fell ill to COVID as well in late July. Despite the complications, Hastings Commons has every intention of bringing a state-of-the-art luxury motor coach commerce facility to the currently undeveloped site, as was the case when we set out on this project last year. As you will see in the application materials, we aren't requesting any changes to the previous approval we received. We are just asking for a bit more time to complete the project. We will abide by all of the conditions that were previously placed. We ask today that you approve our application so that we can see this project through and not let the hard work that has been done on both the part of the city and Hastings Commons go to waste. I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like, otherwise I can turn it back to Mr. Hinsman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh, I do have questions, but I'll ask you as soon as we're through.
Okay, thank you.
Make sure we get everybody. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, come on up.
My name is Champak Bhakta. I'm the general manager and partner in the Coratel in Hastings right now. And our concern is our view of the property from the Vermillion Street. Secondly, once these units will be there, will be totally blockouts. So it will look like another trailer park area, and people are gonna stay there with the hookups and everything. They're gonna stay for a while. So it looks like another residential things, and it will be bad for our business because this front will block everything. So that's why we are just opposing these things. So I hope you guys consider that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Yep, come on up.
Hi, my name's Dan Matamiro, and I live at 114 West 25th Street, so right behind the subway, across the way from 61. I was not aware until you just spoke that this was 2 separate properties. I thought it was Hastings LLC was also owned the hotel, but that's not the case? Okay. I just want to clarify
I can
that.
address that, Mr. Madamiro. When you take a look at the property there, the property as is seen on the screen there is owned by a different entity, Hastings Common LLC, than the hotel, if that's
Okay.
what you're asking.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification. I'm opposed to the proposition that's before you. I have concerns about traffic that is already right there, as many of you are probably aware, since we've had the Highway 61 meetings in the past 2 or 3 months, one just a couple weeks ago. I have other concerns also about maintenance and runoff, and whether or not, when something like this is proposed on paper, when I see the trees there, are they actually maintained? Is the right-of-way held to some sense of integrity? Or is it going to, as I drive up and down 61 and see nothing is really maintained between a sidewalk and 61, it's just more gravel and more dirt. So I just have general concerns about the landscaping, the runoff, where stuff, what the drainage is like from there, and the non-point source pollution that goes on. And hopefully that would be addressed. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Do you have anybody on Zoom? No, okay. Anyone else? No. I do have a question. When you were reading your statement earlier, what approvals weren't you getting from who?
We were working with Dolly.
What is that? Can you come on up? Yeah, what exactly is that? Just so that everyone can hear.
Yes, so Department of Labor and Industry, they have certain requirements for these types of parks, especially with recreational vehicles. There's certain standards that we're required to follow. So just making sure we are following all of their requirements in addition to the ones that are imposed by the city. So it's a state level review that we have to go through for this type of project.
Okay. Thank you. So I know the site plan is not up for discussion tonight because that's already been approved. So we got that. However, we do have a new factor built into this time around. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, public hearing is now closed. Now I'll go ahead and talk. So when we approved this last year, the Highway 61 study was not, I don't even know if it was on the radar. I don't even remember. It's been so long ago. And now thinking of what's going on with 316, with the rebuild, because of the longer vehicles, the reconstruction going on there, oops. And so are we going to have that same conflict when they redo 61? Because I haven't seen that part of 61 on the proposal yet, but you're going to be having motorhomes, these longer vehicles pulling out onto 61, and they may not have that wide 2-lane movement that they do now if they just, depending upon what they do at 61, if they put the trails in, if they kind of shorten it a little, if they don't make it as wide. So we have a different set of factors in front of us a year later than we did back then when we did the interim use permit. Again, I'm not even taking up on the site plan. It's already been approved. I know we can't go back to that. There's a legal agreement in place. However, now that we're looking at the use of the property for an interim use permit, trying to figure out how if that's going to conflict with the 61, we certainly don't want the same situation developing with MnDOT when we have these 30, 35-foot, 40-foot motorhomes trying to pull out onto 61. So that's my concern. That's my immediate concern, because there's a fair amount of median signs that have to get replaced as it is with the semi-trucks turning out of the mill. They take out the median signs all the time. They're laying there in the wintertime because they don't have the clearance necessary to make those turns. And now we're throwing motorhomes into the mix. So for what it's worth, that's my 2 cents as far as that is concerned. So, Commissioners, any other comments, questions? Commissioner Matzke.
I guess when we start looking at the 61 city, we don't have it in front of us. We have no way of knowing what their comments are at this time. It'd be, you know, it's like, it's hard to bring that in, but you also look at like those same motorhomes have to pull into the fuel, quick trip and whatever. And so I don't see that as much of a deterrent to stopping us from approving this. I mean, I
Okay.
guess that's my thoughts on it. I mean, they'll have to address, the MnDOT will have to make the approaches, you know, accessible to both, otherwise they'll stop the project, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah. Commissioner, with the site plan approval from last year, MnDOT was provided a copy of that, so they're aware of that going on and have contemplated that into the planning that they're doing for Highway 61 right now. So I don't know specifically what changes may occur to access the site. I mean, the site's going to have to be provided access in one way or the other, but the method in which access is provided may change with the construction of this roadway. So they're in the process right now, I think, as a lot of you know of. They had an open house about 3 weeks ago. They're going to be continuing an online survey based upon various proposals that they have right now. So we'll have a better idea of what specifically would happen with access here, but yeah, that certainly could change.
And it is, we are not asking for a change in any rezoning, we're just simply asking to extend the IUP.
And actually, to clarify, we're asking to issue a new IUP. The IUP that was issued by the council last year expired on September 1st of this year. So our ability to extend it was not there, so a new application was made. The new application is identical to the one that was approved in 2021.
Commissioner Halbert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, is there a way to put in there that, how do I say this? So say we approve this and a year from now, nothing has been accomplished because of all the changes with Highway 61, whatever the case might be. How many times do we keep going back to the well to approve this IUP? Is there a way to put in the stipulations that once this one expires again, they have to go through the entire process, that it's not as simple as just coming for a new IUP, they have to go through the site plan, the review, all that jazz? Or do we just say that, you know, this is null and void, we're not moving forward any further?
Yeah, specifically with the IUP on that one, the applicant has asked that the deadline for the new IUP, the one that's under consideration here, be extended to September 1st, 2023. So what happens if we're in a position 1 year from now with with work that hasn't progressed, or either asking for a new IUP, or if it's a little bit earlier, asking for an extension of this one? Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. I understand the point of it, which is when you approve an item, you're doing so in the hopes that there would be a quick resolution to the construction of it. And the more that it languishes out there, things may change over time. I don't know how long that site plan would last. The site plan itself has a stipulation of significant progress. My determination is that they've been actively working towards that over the past year, so I'm comfortable that that's being made. But if progress isn't made for an extended period of time, it does put that site plan approval in jeopardy.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Hey, Commissioner Tyken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I voted against this last time because I thought it was a bad fit for the area, just like I thought the last building was a good fit and a good introduction to the city. We've had other buildings that have been put up in the year and they haven't had a problem. This is a parking lot that they're trying to put up, so I don't understand why they do it, but based on how I thought last time, I'm not in favor of this. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Tyken. Commissioner Peters?
When I just want to refresh my memory. When I look at the term for this, it says 10 years with the right to renew for an additional 10 years. with consideration to the Highway 61 project that will happen at some point within the next 10 years. I think it's what, 2026 or something, or whenever that is.
Correct.
The right to renew, is that an automatic right, or does it come back to the planning commission or the city council to grant renewal for the interim use permit for another 10 years? Because are we looking at 10 years or 20 years right now if it can auto-renew?
It wouldn't be an auto-renew, Commissioner. There would be an opportunity for the applicant to ask for a renewal of it and for the council planning commission to provide input on that.
Okay, so if something wasn't working with it, it could be something that was ended after 10 years?
It could be. I mean, if there's a substantial difference in a variety of things in the future that in 10 years from now would go, wait a second, the conditions on the ground have changed substantially for whatever reason, we would not entertain an extension of this one. I mean, that would still be the prerogative of the planning commission and council at that point, the way that I understand the agreement. You know, the interim use permit is designed to be that interim, and so it's not designed to be something that would go on for a permanent or an extended period of time.
Nothing? Okay. Commissioners, any other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Willing to make a motion?
I made the motion at the last time, so I'll do it again. I'll make a motion to accept the IUP.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve the Hastings Common Interim Use Permit 2022-51. Motor Coach Commerce Facility, 2400 block of Vermillion Street. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'll mix it up from last time.
Commissioner Peters, second. Any new discussion? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So I will note that's 4 ayes and 1 nay.
Two. Two, Commissioner Tyken and myself.
On yourself, got it, okay. I will take that note. Thank you. Right, and the comments passed forward to the city council, chair, or Commissioner Tyken, anything more that you'd like to add on that? I know you gave some comments during the meeting, but,
Commissioner Tyken, you first.
Sure. I just don't think it's a very good fit for that location. There would be better things for that. To put a bunch of motorhomes on a, busy industrial road just isn't a good fit for the city, and it's not a good look.
got it.
Thank you.
I think she was mentioning the delays with permits and so forth. We had other construction projects going on, so maybe I'm not understanding that whole delay process and what was going on there, but there's been absolutely zero done to that property since, other than it being mowed, since we actually approved it the first time. So that's my reasoning behind that. So I just haven't seen any movement beyond our approval from last year. So.
I will move that, the recommendation, the comments forward to the city council. They will review this on the September 19th meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for attending for that. Other actions, other business, John?
Other business, I have no other business tonight. Just to recap a couple of items here. We have a next planning commission meeting scheduled in 2 weeks on the 26th. We're likely to have a meeting that day. I've got a site plan application for an expansion of a project we're reviewing tomorrow internally. If everything is a go there, then we'll have that meeting scheduled for the 26th. So it looks likely we'll have one on the 26th for planning commission. Other actions going on right now, there's a lot of construction activity going. The Quill Senior Apartment Building is being finalized this week, so that's been a good project. A couple more that are going to be under construction shortly. The Vermillion Acres and Conduit 47, footings and foundations are occurring. That's going to be a modular build-out, so it's going to be a rather quick project once the modular pieces come in, and that could be happening over the winter. Enclave Project, they have divided that into 2 stages. First apartment along 33rd Street, we should be holding a pre-con meeting in the next week or so they can start construction of it. The building downtown for Stencil, not Bailey's Landing, the one on the UBC site, 90-unit apartment building. There's some requirements that we're going through right now with MPCA that's delaying that project unexpectedly. Nothing serious, just more of something we didn't get in on a timely basis. So once that is resolved, then that project is gearing to go. So a lot of projects going on around town, a lot of buildings still continuing.
And just for educational purposes, if you didn't see the city council meeting, can you kind of go over the reasoning behind why they divided the two buildings? Or why did they divide the project up into two separate apartment or buildings?
Yeah, I don't know, they weren't very specific with us on it. What they're doing with the construction of it is they are constructing all the utilities and doing all the grading work in a single phase. So they're essentially they'll be doing all the work for both sites, creating the building permit for the first one to begin with, and then I don't have a time frame for the second one. But because they're putting the utilities in at this time and doing a lot of that site preparation work, it provides me with more confidence that this is a viable project, as opposed to them doing everything separately on one property and just leaving the other one blank.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have anything else would you like to?
Mr.
Nope.
Chair, I just
Commissioner Tyken.
had a question for John. I think, was it Rise Up, the recovery home?
Yeah.
Is that in place?
Being worked on right now. There's some fire suppression issues that they've been working through that were more expensive than they anticipated. It's been a couple, 2-3 weeks since I've heard something from the building department on that one. But that continues to move forward, from what I understand, just a bit delayed.
I'm just curious, once that gets up and running, what
Yeah.
the impact really is.
Mhm.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioners, anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Commissioner Tyken, second.
Second.
Commissioner Halber, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Come on.
You're on permanently now.
You know, those just turned out.